name is Shelley Furness. I use she, her pronouns. And I am new in Kate since October. I don't know if I can still claim new. Can I claim new?
Sure.
Okay. So I am coming from two different career paths, business and education. On the business side, I've been an assistant to the director of advertising in a grocery chain. I have been a key account rep. I was actually responsible for 70% of the marketing 70% of the milk that came out of the Borden milk plant. And then I moved into a corporate training position. And then on the education side, I have been teaching advanced placement in dual credit English. I was drafted into an online university, and I worked on an entire master's of communication. And then finished my PhD and wanted to stay local instead of going to California or West Virginia. And so I have been teaching before coming here dual credit English at the college level. I am excited to partner with you guys on this emerging topic, and hopefully we can, continue the conversation after this and move into building some amazing writing curriculum. I am so excited to have the representatives from the Writing Support Program. Did I get it correct?
You did. Hello, I'm Diana Dawson, and if she's new, I'm old. I've taught the beginning news writing course here for 25 years, and so I've seen all sorts of evolutions in our students' writing and their approach to the process. 10 years ago, I started the Moody Writing Support Program, and if you don't know about that, we have peer writing coaches in every major to assist your students with their writing. So we have an RTF coach who can work on screenwriting, PR advertising coaches who are familiar with that genre, news writing coaches, everything. And we started that because we saw that the University Writing Center was great for research papers, essays, things like that. But if I sent a journalism student there, they came back writing a crime story as an essay, and they were miles behind. So we started this, and in October we'll celebrate our 10th anniversary. And the smartest thing I ever did in starting that program was hiring Emily Quigley as the associate director.
I don't know about that part, but I will try to live up to that. And yes, I'm the associate director of the Writing Support Program, and I'm also a lecturer in the journalism school, co-teach that reporting class with Diana and several other wonderful people, and I'm just happy to be here helping students with all their writing projects. The best work I do is when I get to work with those students and see them develop their skills and feel better about what they're doing when they're done with a meeting. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And Emily and I both came from the world of professional journalism. So if you added all the years, I'd probably be like a Tyrannosaurus Rex age, but had a couple of decades in professional journalism too. Back to you.
Oh my goodness. We're back to T-Rex time. I'm going to wait, but hopefully I can remember the agenda. So on the slide, what we're going to do first of all, when we were collaborating on what we could get accomplished today, we thought about the fact that I think folks need to just process this at the moment before we move into design of writing specifics. And so we are going to look at an example that I created, and I know Joe created some, but we're going to look at a very quick example of what ChatGPT actually does. And then we're going to have a little time for us to look at an example that is a 4-paragraph essay. And, I'll come back to that. But we're going to kind of overview what this particular tool, this digital tool does, what it looks like, what it creates. And then we are going to talk about, how do we begin conversations with the students, and Emily and Diana are going to lead that. And then we're going to circle back around to our final thoughts and chatting with each other, trying to, think about next steps. How do we begin to open up these conversations and moving forward? I would love for you guys to use this QR code real quickly to go to our Jamboard. And as you're thinking about ideas, as you're thinking about what in the world is this, and how do we begin to, this is like spell check, are we still going to have to teach spelling? Of course. So it's just another evolution, as Emily was saying. But what are some of our thoughts? And then this way we can create a space where we can continue the conversation more than just our initial reactions. So the objective here is to make sure that we can continue the conversation in some way. And I will be capturing those, and I'll have to think about how we're going to facilitate the continuing conversation, but I will get back with you on that later. Okay, so just a simple demonstration. To give an idea of how I learned about this, Matt, and I don't know if Ann was on the call, and Mary, but I had a colleague respond to me, and they showed me Chat GPT. I thought it was what they were writing. And I'm like, that's a great point. And then he circles back around and said, no, it was AI that wrote that. And so I'm like, whoa, what? And so I had to go back and check myself and see what was going on and actually explore this space. But this was something that I did that was super quick. And so this is 6 seconds. I asked it to write a social media post as an influencer to support clean water legislation in the United States. Thought I was being pretty specific, all of that type of stuff. And so let's see what it did. And this is real time, it answering my prompt. That's how quick it started writing. How many of y'all have actually looked at Chat GPT and played with it? What stands out to me here, the first time I saw this is like, oh my God, it has hashtags. That's an appropriate style for a social media post. As a writing teacher, I'm looking through to see if I can see any grammatical errors or awkward sentences. I'm looking to see if it answered the prompt. It did indeed take a stance on the issue, and it gave me a logical response. Now, does it have details? Yeah. And so there's some things that we can see as instructors that we would want from our students that is way beyond this, is more than this. But if you were glancing quickly at this, how many of you would say that this is like a decent attempt? It's a decent attempt, and it follows the style, and it is, it demonstrates control of language, all of those things that, I'm kind of checking off as a writing instructor. And so, yeah, it's pretty shocking, 6 seconds. So, knowing that, some of the things that to just keep in mind is this software was developed. It does snag text that it can get anywhere on the internet. So if it is on the net, it's available for this particular program to learn from. It's available for being able to generate some of the details, processes. For example, Sean White in nursing said he was super concerned because they ran a couple of prompts through this particular digital tool, and it created, pretty detailed descriptions of processes that they would expect the students to discuss and write about. So it can learn from anything on the net. The newest version was launched in November, and this is the one thing I think that is a saving grace at the moment, but who knows, they might be making this next step. It can't access proprietary information. So at the moment, things that are housed in your particular Canvas course, that is your information, databases, those types of things, it is not accessing those. So when we see information coming about, we're not going to see, for example, ChatGPT being able to help students with an annotated bit or some of those types of writing, giving peer-reviewed journal article, information, synthesizing that. One of the big things that I was also shocked about, and I'm not going to go through this whole demonstration because it's a little bit longer, but at the moment, Turnitin.com does not detect this as unoriginal writing. So for those of you who use, I hope everybody uses Turnitin at least as a basis, but it is an originality checker. And so for example, when I'm looking at essays that are turned in, I would not necessarily be alarmed if I saw 13%. Because I'm asking students to synthesize information, to use sources, etc. It would be reasonable that there is going to be some material that's not original. Now when I click on that and I look at the essay, it either needs to say according to, or there needs to be in-text citation, and I need to see the references, the resources. But for the most part, if you're looking at this, it is new work. So that's a little bit unnerving as well. Obviously, Turnitin.com says that they are on it. We'll see how that works out. But at the moment, we're in that little gray area of trying to feel this out while those particular tools are being updated as well. So that's something to consider if you are using Turnitin.com. I wanted us to take a few minutes to pair share. But take a look at this particular prompt. It says, can you write me a 4-paragraph academic essay comparing and contrasting the theories of nationalism of Benedict Anderson and Ernest Gellner? This was written in 10 seconds, this essay. How many of y'all can write an essay in 10 seconds? I cannot. I don't know if I could write the first thought, my first, my stance in 10 seconds. So I want you guys to take about 5 minutes, look at the writing, think about the style of the writing, the quality of the writing, the content, and just share with each other for a bit in your tables, and talk about why you might be concerned with what you're seeing or what it's able to produce as you think about teaching writing in your class. So like 5 minutes. Let's just look at it and talk.
Seems pretty good, but it's a fairly unimaginative way of starting.
Yeah, not a very good lead.
There's no voice.
It is baseline, right?
Yeah.
It's making a baseline assertion. Talk at your
But in
table
terms
so
of-
that you
I mean, the thing is, you could
chat at your table so that you can get lots of conversation.
So, yeah. He does a good job with the debate. I mean, some things words, some of it's grammar better than students.
All right, what I'd like you to do is take a moment to share your individual thoughts. I love the conversations that were going on, but I really do want to capture some of the thoughts that we have at the moment and then how we are going to begin solving these issues that you guys are bringing up. So please take a moment just to jot something down quickly on the Jamboard, capture these ideas that are happening. Real time in your class, thinking about your specific curriculum, what you're anticipating will happen or what you may have already seen, all of those things. Please capture something so that we have a snapshot.
Could you put up the QR code for the gym?
Oh, yes. It's not happy with the.
So, right now at the university level, is there a ban on using ChatGPT for?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
No.
There was actually some information in an email yesterday that went out from.
There might be an implied ban on using someone else's ideas for your own and taking credit for them without attribution, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Academic
All university
honesty.
work, right?
Yeah,
I'm not being, I'm not being
Yeah,
silly.
yeah, no,
I don't,
that's-
I don't know
that
that
is-
they make the connection.
Right, that's plagiarism.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you farm
Yeah.
out the thinking to ChatGPT.
I'm not sure
Straight
that,
up
I'm not sure that 19-year-old sophomores want to know that or want to admit they know that or want to acknowledge that they shouldn't do that until something bigger happens, and then that's my concern about it.
Y'all write that in there. Write that in there, 'cause-
I'm having
Oh,
some tech
gotcha.
issues, so.
How does it
That
work?
is
None of us
something-
know how to use Jamboard.
Yeah, I don't know how to use Jamboard.
Oh, okay.
And my
Um,
the phone side, I have
when you
13
get-
percent.
Yeah.
Just can't get in.
We're trying to connect to
Your Google. Okay, jot it down.
I'm sorry.
I should have brought some Post-its. I should have brought some Post-its. If you could put it on a piece of paper at all, that would be great. It's okay that the Jamboard thing is not working. We can totally go low tech and just, I should have brought some Post-its. I apologize. But capturing things like, okay, we're thinking about what's happening in our class, but also what is the conversation at the level of the university? For example, the student contact and academic integrity folks are definitely thinking about this. They had indicated that the language specific for ChatGPT has not been created yet, but they're very aware of it and trying to also mold the policies to help with these discussions that we have to have with the students. But we do need to know that, everybody's on board, everybody's considering the landscape, and how do we move forward from there? I agree.
So, Shelley got us thinking about this when she asked us to assist with this workshop. And immediately, as the semester was beginning, started trying to wrap our heads around this. And, one of the things that we realized is we don't know what to call it right now. And our messaging to students will probably evolve over time as we learn more about this. There are a lot of unknowns, and so it's evolving. It's not going to go away, and it might be useful. Think about it this way. We used to, back when I first started reporting, we certainly didn't have spell check. I had to look things up in a dictionary, but we don't consider spell check cheating now. We would be concerned if students don't use that. So there may be ways that they do use, can use it well. And so we don't want to approach it as all evil. what I kind of came down on was thinking that we need to let them know this isn't some big secret they have, that we're aware. And so I actually put a statement in my syllabus saying that, you know, in the future you may use this in certain forms, but you won't use it for everything. And you're here in my classes to work on your ability to write better. So don't do yourself a disservice by taking this shortcut. And I even added the line, I said, at the very least, I'll consider it an act of laziness. But don't do yourself a disservice, because you need to work on the craft of writing.
Just to sort of jump off on some of the points that Diana made, I think that it's important for us to discuss it with the students, not only to have that, you know, openness to it, to hear what they're thinking about it, how they're using it, how they're not using it, what they understand about it. I think it's important for all of us and for the students to know the limitations that there are on the system right now. It is not just punch a button and magically your A appears, because as we saw on the essay, yes, there are a lot of things there that would work, but it's missing other things that we would be looking for. And I think that you know, it's important for us to know that it's not just a magic key at this point. It is evolving, and the students to know that as well. What I think that Diana was talking about, they may use it someday. The reality is, the way this is developing, this could become a part of jobs in the future. And so we need to think about how we're equipping students to use that, just like we think about how they use any other tools. But coming back to critical thinking, that should be, you know, what I'm always striving for with students. I don't want to just say, here is the structure of a news story, fill in the blanks. I want them to think about the information they're gathering as reporters and then how they're putting that together as they write it. And that's going to be important when you're using this tool as well, because the kinds of prompts that you do and how you use it, other people have used this a lot more than I have shown that you have to really know how to put information in to get the good information out. So I think that, you know, thinking about in the future how we teach students to be good writers and critical thinkers in tandem, I think is, you know, continues to be important. And that's my ultimate goal. And so I'm more concerned about that than I am about maybe more basic tool type things.
Right. And how about the rest of you? Have any of you discussed this with your students or addressed it in your syllabus, or are you still just kind of shaking your head, not knowing what to do with it? Anybody? Christian?
I addressed it in my syllabus, saying that you can't use AI-generated text and claim it as your own in the writing portions of my class. I can see in the future there's another version of this, or there's bits of this to write computer code, and we do that a lot in my class. And I'm gonna have to teach it as a tool, like it, you know, to where they can use it well and correctly, because again, the prompt makes all the difference. We'll be prompt engineers in the future. And then the other thing, like I have a projects class that were, you know, was trying to figure out how to use AI to solve a problem. Their problem was how to make better playlists in Spotify, and they were using a different version than ChatGPT, but they, you know, we're asking AI to give them, you know, I'm going on a 30-minute trip. I need a playlist that has Justin Bieber and Taylor Swift, and it gives them the songs back. And they do the rest of the thinking through to get the IDs of the songs from Spotify and build a playlist, and they like built all these little pieces. And they did it with the help of a journalist from Hearst who had created a Slack bot where they put in a URL to one of the stories at the San Antonio Express News. It goes to GPT-3. It writes a tweet. It gives them 3 suggested headlines, 3 SEO-friendly URLs, and 10 related stories to that. A tool that they haven't, that they're working with. They're not like, it's not like it when is being used routinely in the newsroom, but it's something that they're playing with. So we're already trying to think of ways to use this well, you know, or use it at all. And we're talking about like, it's going to be part of our jobs.
Right.
And you know, I don't know that the tweets are all, that they're the ones that they're going to use. And it's not like it's going to tweet it out, but somebody has to edit that. But it could be a starting place for a lot of writing and a lot of work.
And I think that's part of the challenge for what we're going to do here at Moody is there are so many different kinds of writing that we're all doing, and we've got to look at it in different ways. And what a tool like this can do for news writing versus, you know, corporate communications versus essays versus all those things, we have to, you know, all of those are different bits to think about. I don't know that there's going to be one answer. And so that's going to be the challenge, I think, for all of us to look at.
Anyone else?
So, I mean, I can, I guess for the folks at home. So, you know, so far I acknowledged to my class this is out there, and because it's a reporting and writing class, brought up the fact that, you know, our robot overlords cannot go out and report on things yet, so that it's necessary to do this. But the question that I threw out to them and that I'm working on myself is, you know, I am who I am because of all the accumulation of stories that I've written that's created neural pathways in my brain that now make sense of things because I've struggled with how to make sense of something. So I've said to them, unless you know how to write something, you're not going to really understand how to report for your writing because you don't know what your story needs. So I guess what I'm struggling with to understand is how, if we're going to have this technology that can even that they can plug all these inputs into, how do we get them to engage in critical thinking, even though, critical thinking is going to be even more important. But writing is how I learned critical thinking, how we all did. So I'm just, you know, I'm hoping just to ignore this for this semester, and then that you guys that there'll be some new book on writing well that just says on writing well with GPT, like that'll tell us what that process is.
Anyone else? Has anybody else addressed it with your students or found a way to tackle this in the classroom yet? Or still just wrestling?
I'm pretty much where Andrew is. I guess I wanted to ask Christian, when you say, you know, no text generated by this tool, are you asking students to tell you or to include something in their cover sheets or something to tell you how they are using it? Or?
I'm saying at this point, you can't use it.
Yeah, at all.
Yeah. You can't use it and claim it as your own. If we were working on a project that required it, you know, then I think they would have to disclose it. If I figured it out that they used AI text, then that's
Dishonest.
it's dishonest. It's in the list of things that you don't do. You know. I don't think that's going to I don't think that's going to suffice much after this semester.
I mean, the shark has jumped.
Yeah.
Or we jumped it. We jumped the shark.
Yeah.
Actually, probably both, but whatever. It's gonna. I mean, I'm sure students are already using it. I think I'm lucky enough in my classes to where you see the story happen in a way that I can be reasonably sure that they're not using it, but I can get fooled. I would have been fooled by that one. you know, just because, whatever, yeah. I don't know. I'm a little bit head in the sand too at the moment, but with my eyes wide open that we got to figure out a way.
Joe?
Andrew, I really thought you phrased it well. That notion of becoming the cumulative experience of what you've put together, and a critical thought and a critical thought and a critical thought and a critical thought might set you up for this problem. And one of the experiences I've had is, not all of them, but many of my students are highly transactional. They're very transactional. It's like, will this get me here? Will this get me here? What's my grade on this? Will this? And they tend to think that way about the class. And so my concern is, how do we teach that notion? Because I do not want to square off with them as the enemy over a technology, because that's a meme out there. He's an old guy. He doesn't like the technology. Therefore, and then all of a sudden you're not working with him. You're the enemy. And that's a real concern. I do not want to square off with them over a technology, but teaching them that value of the long game is a real concern of mine, when I think this may turn it into a series of short games that they never get that gestalt for whatever. And so I really liked what you said.
And as you know, in professional environments, there's also going to be a whole huge raft of entry-level jobs in the creative fields that are going to disappear, where you started learning how to be a communicator, how to be a journalist, and then how do they both intellectually and professionally just show up at like higher level functioning and creativity, right? I mean, imagine like an Italian an Italian Renaissance artist studio with the maestro and the apprentice is doing that. That's how you learn to be a maestro, right? All those functions are now botted out for it. Anyway.
Okay, so in order for us to have some time to talk and,
Just have one more comment over here.
oh, so sorry.
I mean, I'm not in the craft of writing, but the class that I teach is production skills based, and I use these tools to teach the students how to use and how to rethink the process of filming. And it was a little bit challenging because you don't really see the process inside, but which is very interesting because you realize that the initial process needs to be done well. Because even if you use these tools, you may never get the result that you are looking for. So they have to go back and forth with the tools to produce something that they may not even think about at the beginning, but also in the next production exercise, they approach the problem in a different way. For example, it's tasks that were extremely difficult to achieve, technologically speaking, they become very easy there. So they focus on the content versus the production of it. So it's a little bit early to say how good they are going to be, but definitely they are learning from that software, because they always have to come back to the most rudimentary element of filming, which is lighting, which is going to help them to actually use it in a better way than if they don't have it right. So they are actually, these tools, pushing back to think, okay, so this should have been filmed this way, not the other way. Because, I mean, even the result is very similar. It's never going to be as perfect as you want to. It's never perfect, but as good as you want to. So that's, but I'm coming from a completely different area. And for advertising writing, I'm experimenting with Jasper, which is a tool that is dedicated only in advertising. So it's very interesting how to do it. And a few weeks ago, I can't remember exactly about the article, but they were saying, well, we are going to discover with all these, I guess I'm part Asian, and that's why I'm looking on those topics, but the hate against Asian and how this has happened. So if you use this tool to search for things that may not be very evident for other people who are not Asian, so they are excellent. So if you use these tools, for example, to search for pornography, you will realize that many of the outcomes are Asian people. And I was extremely shocked because I never really thought it that way, but it's very shocking. So it may be another tool to research other information that is not even the objective of what you're looking for. So, but that's my experience. I'm still experimenting, and now I don't know how good it's going to be, but it has been something that I recommend the students to use now. Thank you.
I'm actually doing backflips now because I've heard so many of you mentioning things that have to do with experiential learning, discovery learning, project-based learning. Even when you were mentioning the studio idea of being in an apprenticeship, they're emerging professionals and they're apprenticed with you at the moment at UT. So in what ways can we begin to start thinking about what is the experiential learning happening with us, conversations, peer groups, what's happening in the class that is supporting their ability to discover, to experiment, not to ignore the tools that they do have. So I love it. I mean, I think you guys are processing that and you're moving in that direction. That's who we are as educators in the 21st century. We can't walk in and just deliver content. We can't necessarily be transactional, which the students are actually looking for. They want their star when they finished. Well, we had this conversation yesterday, Anne, but they want that little carrot after they finished one, piece of the puzzle. And how can we get them to that point where they are vested in building that expertise and the mastery because they have someone who is, I'm a Lev Vygotsky kind of person, but who is in that zone of proximal development that will give them that ability to make it to the next step. So I think you guys are definitely processing that idea that it will take time for us to think about, what does this look like now versus what we have been doing? And how do we begin to start crafting or, have thought partners and start crafting those ways to create space in the classroom where they're allowed to experiment, where they're allowed to discover. It's who they're going to be in 5 years. What is the use for ChatGPT in 5 years? Who knows? There's going to be constant evolution in how we're communicating, and so change starts here, right? And then the world. And so maybe we can start thinking as a group and being thought partners on how we can begin molding those learning experiences for an acknowledgement that there are going to be tools involved in these professions moving forward. So I just wanted to go ahead and give time at the end here for us. I know that Jamboard didn't happen to be the most easy tool to use. Yay, technology! But if you could at least jot me some notes. I do want to start collecting, it may be on Canvas, and start having some conversations where our Moody faculty are able to at least get in there and start thinking about things and start solving things together. Suggestions, and here's what I did in class, and here's what works. Here's what to avoid, or here's where it might go south a little bit or fail forward. So I do want to make sure that we're capturing some of these thoughts and continuing in a space where we can collaborate together. So whether you want to chat or whether you want to give me some notes that I can begin crafting this space for us to continue the conversation, it's up to you. But I would love to have some of your thoughts so that we can begin.